High in the frozen mountains of Yakutia, where temperatures plunge to minus 71 degrees Celsius, where snowstorms can rage for weeks without end, where the air itself can freeze your lungs if you breathe too deeply, a Yakut widow and her two daughters fight for survival completely alone. Her name is Sardana. She is 43 years old, though the harsh winters have aged her beyond her years. Her hands are scarred from frostbite, her face weathered by winds that cut like knives. Her daughters, Aytalina and Kyunney, are 19 and 16. Together, these three women face what no one should face alone: the brutal, merciless winter of the Sakha Republic, the coldest inhabited place on earth. They lost him 3 months ago. Mikhail, Sardana's husband, father of her daughters, had gone out to check on the reindeer herd during a sudden storm. The wind had risen without warning, the way it does in these mountains, transforming a grey afternoon into a white hell within minutes. He'd kissed Sardana goodbye at the door of their traditional Yaranga tent, promising to return before dark. She'd watched him disappear into the swirling snow, his figure swallowed by the blizzard within seconds. He never came back. They found his body 2 days later, when the storm finally cleared. He'd made it to the reindeer, had even managed to guide some of them back toward shelter, but the cold had taken him just half a kilometer from home. His body was frozen solid, positioned as if he were still walking, one hand raised to shield his face from wind that no longer blew. Sardana didn't cry at his funeral. There was no time for tears. Winter doesn't pause for grief. The reindeer still needed tending. The water still needed hauling. The firewood still needed gathering. Life, brutal and demanding, continued. Now, 3 months later, she wakes before dawn every morning in the darkness of the polar winter. Here, in December and January, the sun barely rises at all, offering only a few hours of dim twilight before darkness returns. She lights the oil lamp with trembling fingers, her breath forming clouds in the frigid air inside the tent. The temperature inside is minus 20 degrees Celsius. Outside, it's minus 65. "Girls," she whispers, shaking her daughters awake. "Time to work." They dress in layers. First, the thin cotton undergarments, then wool, then reindeer fur, then more fur. By the time they're finished, each woman wears nearly 10 kilograms of clothing. Their hands disappear into massive fur mittens. Their faces are wrapped in scarves until only their eyes show. Moving becomes difficult, but staying warm is the only thing that matters. The first task every morning is water. The stream, their only source, is now buried under 2 meters of ice. Every day they must chip through that ice to reach the flowing water beneath. Aytalina, the older daughter, takes the metal pick. She is strong, stronger than her mother now, her young body not yet broken by decades of survival. The sound of metal striking ice echoes across the empty landscape. Strike, strike, strike. The rhythm never changes. It takes nearly an hour to break through. When they finally reach water, it's so cold it begins freezing again immediately. They must work fast, filling their containers, hauling them back to the tent before ice forms and seals them shut. Kyunney, the younger daughter, tends the fire. This is perhaps the most important job. The fire cannot go out. Ever. If it dies, they die. She feeds it carefully, adding small pieces of dried wood and animal dung, watching the flames, adjusting the airflow. The smoke rises through the hole in the tent's roof, carrying with it the only warmth they have. By mid-morning, they check the reindeer. The herd has shrunk. They started the winter with 43 animals. Now they have 31. Some died in the storm that took Mikhail. Others have simply disappeared, wandered off into the white expanse, and never returned. Each lost reindeer is a catastrophe. The animals provide everything: transportation, milk, meat, hides for clothing and shelter. Without the reindeer, the family cannot survive. Sardana walks among the herd, counting them, checking their condition. Several are thin, too thin. The winter has been harsh, the grazing poor. She makes a decision she's been avoiding. They need to slaughter one animal soon, before it dies on its own. Better to have the meat than to lose it to starvation or wolves. Tomorrow, she tells Aytalina, we'll take the spotted bull, he's weakest. Aytalina nods. She's done this before, helped her father butcher reindeer. But it feels different now, heavier. Every decision falls on them now. There's no one else to share the burden. Afternoons are for hunting. The family needs more than reindeer meat to survive. They need variety, need vitamins, need to preserve their herd as long as possible. So the three women take their rifles and venture into the frozen wilderness. Today, they're tracking Arctic hares. Kyunney spotted tracks near the southern ridge yesterday. The hares are difficult to see against the snow, their white fur perfect camouflage, but their tracks give them away. The women move silently through the landscape. Sound carries strangely in the extreme cold. A whisper can be heard from 100 meters away. A gunshot echoes for kilometers. They communicate with hand signals, the way Mikhail taught them. Sardana sees it first, a flash of movement against the white. She raises her hand. Stop. Her daughters freeze. She points. There. Aytalina slowly, carefully raises her rifle. The cold makes everything difficult. Her fingers, even through the mittens, are numb. The metal of the rifle is so cold it burns to touch. She aims, holds her breath, squeezes the trigger. The shot cracks across the silence. The hair drops. Clean kill. They butcher it immediately, before the meat freezes solid. The blood steams in the frigid air. They save everything. Meat, organs, fur, bones. Nothing is wasted. Cannot be wasted. By the time they return to the tent, the brief winter daylight is already fading. They've been outside for 6 hours. Their faces are covered in frost. Ice has formed on their eyelashes. Their fingers and toes are numb despite the layers of fur. Inside, Kyunney revives the fire, while Sardana and Aytalina prepare the hare. They cook it in a large pot, adding some of their precious store of wild onions and a handful of barley. The smell fills the tent. It's the best smell in the world. Hot food, safety, survival. They eat slowly, savoring each bite. Tomorrow there might not be meat. Tomorrow the storm might come. Tomorrow one of them might not wake up. So tonight they eat and are grateful. After dinner, Sardana performs the ritual her grandmother taught her, and her grandmother's grandmother before that. She burns juniper branches, lets the smoke fill the tent, speaks the old words in the Sakha language, the words that honor the spirits of the land, the spirits of the animals they've killed, the spirit of Mikhail, who watches over them still. Protect us, she whispers to the smoke. Give us strength. Let us see spring. Her daughters join the prayer. They don't know if the spirits listen, but it doesn't matter. The ritual gives them something to hold on to, some connection to the generations of Yakut women who survived before them, who faced these same mountains, this same cold, this same brutal test. At night, they sleep close together, sharing body heat. The three of them huddle under piles of reindeer hides, their breath forming clouds above them, even inside the tent. Outside, the temperature has dropped to -71 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, exposed skin freezes in under 2 minutes. Breath freezes instantly into ice crystals that tinkle when they fall. Metal becomes so brittle it shatters. Rubber turns to powder. But inside their tent, pressed together, the three women survive. They survive because they must, because giving up is not an option, because they are Yakut, descended from people who have lived in this impossible place for thousands of years, who learned not just to survive the cold, but to live in it, to find beauty in it, to call it home. The days blur together, wake before dawn, break ice for water, tend fire, check reindeer, hunt, repair equipment, cook, sleep. Wake before dawn, repeat. Every day the same brutal routine, every day a victory simply to reach nightfall alive. Sometimes, late at night, Sardana allows herself to think about leaving, about taking her daughters and moving to Yakutsk, the regional capital, where there are heated buildings and grocery stores and jobs that don't require risking your life every single day. But she always comes back to the same conclusion. This is their land. These mountains, this cold, these reindeer, this life. It's who they are. To leave would be to lose themselves. Aytalina understands this. She's her mother's daughter, tough and determined. But Kyunney, the younger one, sometimes cries at night when she thinks no one hears. She's only 16. She should be in school, thinking about boys and university, not wondering if she'll freeze to death before spring. Sardana hears her daughter's quiet sobs but says nothing. What can she say? That it will get easier? It won't. That spring will come? It will, but they still have 3 more months of this hell. That they'll be okay? She doesn't know if that's true. Instead, she reaches over in the darkness and takes her daughter's hand, squeezes it once. I'm here. We're together. That's all the comfort she can offer. Sometimes it's enough. 3 months pass. The winter deepens. The herd is down to 23 reindeer. Their food stores are running low. Twice they've survived storms that lasted 5 days straight, trapped in the tent, unable to go outside, burning their furniture for fuel when the firewood ran out. But they're still alive, all 3 of them. And then, one morning in late February, something changes. Sardana wakes and notices it immediately. The darkness inside the tent isn't quite as deep. She extinguishes the oil lamp and waits. Slowly, very slowly, a thin grey light begins to filter through the tent's opening. Dawn, real dawn. The sun is returning. She wakes her daughters with tears in her eyes. Look, she whispers. Look. They crawl to the tent's entrance, pull back the flap. The horizon glows with the first real sunrise they've seen in months. The light is weak, pale, but it's there. The sun, their ancient companion, has returned from its winter exile. Kyunney begins to cry. Aytalina laughs, a sound Sardana hasn't heard in so long it almost seems foreign. And Sardana herself stands in the entrance of their tent, face turned toward that fragile light, and allows herself something she hasn't allowed in 3 months. Hope. They've made it. Against all odds, through the darkest winter, through storms and cold and starvation and grief, 3 women alone in the cruelest place on earth, they've survived. Spring will come now. Slowly, painfully slowly, but it will come. The ice will melt. The reindeer will find fresh grazing. They'll rebuild the herd. They'll repair what winter destroyed. They'll live. And next winter, when the darkness returns and the temperature plunges and the storms rage, they'll face it again. Because they are Yakut. Because this is their home. Because survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about refusing to surrender. Refusing to let the cold win. Refusing to give up on the land and the life their ancestors carved out of this frozen wilderness. 3 women, alone in the coldest place on earth. Surviving not because it's easy, but because giving up has never been an option. This is life at minus 71 degrees. This is survival in Yakutia.